This is the Metalqueenspodcast. I'm Steve Richards, the show where we amplify powerful women shaping the dark, heavy, and beautifully strange corners of music. Today's guest is an artist who thrives in shadow and texture, blending emotion, atmosphere, and experimentation into a sound that refuses to sit still. Claudia Blackstar is a UK based singer and music producer whose work spans electro-goth, alternative metal, darkwave, post-punk, and shoegaze-infused dreamscapes. Alongside her solo project, Claudia also lends her voice and songwriting talents to Dropbeat Empire, an electro-goth duo, and After Dark, an alternative metal project, both rooted in Uruguay, giving her music a truly global edge. Since launching her solo career in early 2022, Claudia has carved out a signature sound influenced by artists like Evanescence, Bjork, Ghost. Her debut album, Visions of the Moon, dropped in August of 2023, followed by a steady evolution of sound that now leans into shoegaze and drone, most recently heard on her single Phoenix and Twilight. I'm happy to have Claudia Blackstar join me from Uruguay here on the Metal Queens podcast. Welcome.
Hello, Steve. I'm happy to be here as well.
It's great to have you here, Claudia. So, for listeners discovering you here watching this and going to discover you after watching this for the very first time, how do you describe the world of Claudia Blackstar?
Oh, well, my musical world has been developing uh, quite a bit on this past years, uh, and it's turned a little complex to this point. But the best way I could describe is that my music isn't a constant evolution. Is I'm always in the search of discovering new sounds and trying to express my feelings and my emotions through my lyrics, and also the sounds and the musical scapes that I can craft according to the moment in time that I find myself. When I was starting, my music was a little bit of an experimentation by merging styles like lo-fi and darkwave and a bit of post-punk as well, and some alternative elements. And and so it's been until the release of my debut album, on which I managed to craft all those elements in the best possible way, according to the cosmic approach that I was searching for the album, as well as the concept through the lyrics. And then I always moved between genres. Um, at first, trying to split all those influences by making lo-fi songs and then darkwave and post-punk songs and some other genres as well. Always on my solo work. I also made a couple of other styles that aren't quite my usual style, but they're all part of my musical catalog. And at this point, I am currently developing this dreamy sound that points towards shoegaze and drone, of, mostly influenced by artists like Ison and Remina, and also a little bit of Slowdive and and early Cranberries as well, because they were a little dreamy, and all these similar artists and bands that incurred into this dreamy genre from the early 90s, and some of the more contemporary ones as well.
You're not just a singer, but you're also a producer too, Claudia. When did you realize you wanted full creative control over your sound?
Well, I guess it can just naturally. Um, I remember that when I was younger, I had a dream of being in a band, you know, uh, but I could never fulfill that dream until many years later, uh, as I'm kind of doing recently with After Dark and Drop It Empire. But before that, I also wanted to create my own songs. I wanted to find a way to express how I was feeling through my songs, through the ideas that I could uh, arrange, not only through through guitar, which I was a very basic guitar player when I started to write my songs. Now, not so much because I think I improved a little bit, but yeah, it just came naturally when I was starting to write my songs and trying to experiment by adding elements here and there. And before I realized, I was uh, just writing full songs. Of course, I was always learning throughout the process. And that's why I always say that I'm a music producer in development, because I am constantly learning new stuff, which I also portrayed in how differently I've managed to approach music through the different styles that I explored throughout these years. And I could say that after 4 years, I managed to go a long way because when looking back to my first songs, I I can tell that yeah, I managed to improve some of the things that back then I was just getting into, and most of that I owe it to the community that I am part of and that I've managed to build throughout this time. All the people that I've met, all the people that have come to discover my work, and also the people that I managed to collab with, and all the bonds that got created because of that. So it's always a nurturing experience, and I couldn't be any more grateful for that. So it's also mm, how can I say? Uh, I owe that to my own exploring on this musical world, but also to the experience that the community has given to me.
I want to ask you about collaborating. Does collaborating internationally change the way you approach songwriting or performance?
Well, at first it was all of a new experience because I wasn't sure how it could turn out, but it eventually turned a rather exciting experience. You know, meeting different people from all around the globe and also getting to know all these different uh, processes that each artist have when it comes to write music. And I happen to learn a lot uh, on how on how every artist uh, works when it comes to creating music. And I also applied some of that to my own musical process. So it's safe to say that I am not writing songs in the same way right now than how I was doing it back in the day.
Did releasing a full album change your confidence or direction as an artist?
Mm, I'd say it was just another natural part of the process. Uh, at first it was just okay by releasing singles, but after after some time, I eventually came to realize that I needed to release an album, and it was like a sort of a self-imposed challenge on which I wanted to build an entire concept uh, around a bunch of songs, like 9 songs that that the album had. And yeah, I was giving it to know uh, through different singles at the time. First, it was with Upside Down, and eventually with Nictophile and Coven, and all of those songs had their own approach through uh, within the same album. And when I eventually announced it, like the first milestone that I was achieving as an artist, uh, I think I was already ready to give that step. And after that, I just kept releasing songs in the way I just felt it at the moment.
Claudia, how did you end up in Uruguay, and what's the music scene like there?
Well, that was more of a personal matter, a family matter actually, and mostly because we have family in here, and yeah, eventually we simply decided that it was better for us to move on to somewhere more peaceful because and also I personally realized that there wasn't much left in the UK for me. So yeah, I was willing to give that step back in the day. And at first it was hard to adapt, but I eventually learned the pace, and yeah, here we are now.
Mm,
And as for the scene, uh, I'm not very much into it because I don't go out that much. I only go to the work and back,
mm,
and I'm mostly a person of my own world. But the little that I know about the scene is that there are quite some metal bands and also rock bands as well, and different artists from all the genres. But how as they always emerging new artists, you never get to know all of them. But yeah, I think there are quite some uh, long-time bands around, as well as some more recent. But yeah, I think it's just like any other country with their own respective scene.
mm. Phoenix marked your move toward a shoegaze, drone-inspired sounds. A great, beautiful song. And what drew you to that texture, heavy style?
Well, that song was quite a challenge to get done. I remember that it took me most of 2025 to get done, and I always wanted to move in that direction. I I always listen to a lot of different music when I'm not in the producer mode and just in the music lover mode. And I am pretty much into dark ambient music, in also in drone music, and of course shoegaze and dream pop and all these dreamy ethereal atmosphere artists and bands and projects. And I remember that I said back then that that it that it'll be really cool to attempt something like that. So I took the time to learn how to approach its textures and how to properly build the dreamy atmosphere, the whole ethereal vibe that all of these projects have. And I remember that I stayed on that song for quite some time until I eventually uh, found a push to properly work on it, and that was the hardest part to achieve. I'll be honest.
Mm,
But now that I'm there, I just plan to keep going under that style until the end of my journey. It's like the song already. mark the template that I can use from there. And I actually have some ideas now in the music oven, and that I will eventually work on. And yeah, now that I'm on that part of my journey, I think that I'm ready to explore to what confines I can get through through it.
Yeah, Claudia, let's talk about that journey coming up here. We're still at the beginning of the year here, 2026. So, what can fans expect from Claudia Blackstar? New singles, collaborations, maybe a new album later this year?
Well, like I said to on some of on one of my recent posts on Instagram uh, at the end of last year, I'm not really planning to do much this year, mostly because all the whole uh, releasing cycle of working on a song and then having to arrange videos and taking photos and all the promo stuff is just no longer speaking to me like it used to. So if I release something, I'll maybe put out some maybe maybe a couple of songs and some other stuff in the meantime, so the wait between singles is not too long. Uh, and on my solo work, but I am actually focusing more on the projects, on After Dark and Drop It Empire. We are working a lot on getting some stuff done. Actually, on After Dark, we also announced also on December last year that we are bringing a new album this year. It'll be the project's third album, and we recently announced the first single that will come out from it, which will be called Nightmare in Black. And we also released a new single for Drop It Empire on last January 28th, which is We Are the Empire. And yeah, we're also planning new stuff with that project as well. And maybe some covers with Drop It Empire as well. So it'll be a really active year for the projects. And I think that will make up uh, with my lack of releases for this year on my solo side.
She's Claudia Blackstar. She's proof that evolution is an art form in itself, fearless, fluid, and deeply personal. From Visions of the Moon to her latest shoegaze soaked releases, to her collaborations, Claudia continues to blur genre lines and invite listeners into beautifully dark spaces where vulnerability and power coexist. Be sure to follow Claudia Blackstar. Stream her music on all platforms, a lot more music to come this year, and experience the journey for yourself. Claudia, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me as well, Steve. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, it was great to have you. And thank you for watching and for listening to the Metal Queens podcast. Like it, share it, subscribe to it, write a review. I'm Steve Richards. I will talk to you again next time.